I'm a big fan of standing out, because there's a lot of SEOs that they publish great stuff, but it's very technical, and it's almost like it was SEO content to serve other SEOs. And I'm like, well, that's not, rather selfishly, that's not going to grow my business. That's just going to make other SEOs clap.
Sam Dunning, welcome to the show. For me, you're the SEO, B2B SEO SaaS guy, and I'm really happy to be talking to you today. I thought I'd just allow you to introduce yourself to the audience over the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. So it's Sam Dunning. I'm founder of a company called Breaking B2B, and in short, we usually work with kind of B2B software, SaaS, tech, or the odd service company that's basically tired of seeing competitors above them in Google's organic search results, or now AI search, basically meaning those competitors are getting a free lunch, stealing traffic, mindshare, inbound leads and pipeline around the clock. So we address that with a bit of an unusual approach to SEO and content marketing that can drive pipeline as fast as 90 days. And usually it tends to be kind of overworked, overrun marketing teams that come to us from B2B tech companies. And I also run a podcast, much like yourself, my podcast called Breaking B2B. And we interview each and every Monday. We either run a guest episode with a SaaS marketing leader to share exactly how they're driving growth today, or we do a solo episode, and that can be anything from how to craft a SaaS website that converts, or weird SEO strategies, or unusual B2B experiments I'm running, and the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And that's where I spend most of my time.
That's really fun stuff. That's really exciting. I hope everyone goes and kind of starts to consume all those exciting experiments. I think one cool thing that you've done recently is also, amongst other things, get your website from fresh off the press to #1 on Google for B2B SaaS SEO in 90 days. I want to get into that, but before we get into that, how important to that success would you say was kind of like the background strategy, understanding targets, messaging, customer insights, things of that nature?
I'd say pretty important. Customer research is definitely, in my opinion, the backbone of, and the foundation really, of any successful B2B marketing in general, because otherwise you're just guessing so much. You're guessing your dream client profile, you're guessing if the messaging is going to work, not just on your website, but pretty much everywhere, in your sales pitch, in your ads, on the site, off the site, if you're guesting on podcasts, all that kind of stuff. Your customer research and your messaging just frames up everything. And for me, to give you without boring you with too much of the background story, but I've worked in SEO and website agencies for the best part of 13, 14 years. And I've gone from being a project manager to sales to doing some of the hands-on work and now more strategy. And I basically built our messaging from my own pain, because we used to, when I used to sell websites in SEO, I used to sell to literally anyone and everyone who would buy. And the issue with that was it was always a struggle. I really, really had to work hard to convince people in the value of SEO and that it was actually worth the investment. And then when I started running my podcast, Breaking B2B, and it wasn't always called that, but it evolved to that over the last few years. And when I started interviewing these B2B and tech and SaaS marketing leaders, I realized that it makes more sense for me to double down on B2B companies, and ideally B2B SaaS teams, because the marketers within these organizations understand the value, in our case, of our offer. This doesn't have to relate to SEO, but they understand that SEO is an actual asset. They understand that if they don't invest in it, their competitors are going to rank above them in Google and steal traffic and leads and pipeline. And they have a grasp on what the flow is and that it's worthwhile. So it makes way more sense. And this is a business lesson. Have an offer that's not just that you think's great, but have an offer that serves a specific niche, that has the expensive problem that you solve, that is genuinely motivated to solve it, and most importantly, can easily afford that offer. Like, so you're basically selling. There's a expression, right? Selling to the starving. I don't know if I'd go that far, but they've got to have that expensive problem. They've got to be motivated to fix it. And they've got to like have the cash to easily invest. So in our case, I was going blind for all these years, doubled down on B2B tech, SaaS, and B2B service. Then realised these marketers actually understand the value. It makes sense to focus on them. And then using the feedback loop that I was getting from calls, like when I was speaking to these marketing leaders and tech teams, they were saying, look, our last agency kind of promised the world and all they really gave us was loads of traffic that never converted into leads or demos or pipeline. Or they tried to do some SEO in-house and it didn't really work out, and it was just they had too many tasks to juggle between ads, between events and all the rest of it. So I literally built out our messaging based on what I was hearing from the market. So in our case, our headline is B2B SaaS SEO for revenue, not vanity. And that was basically because I wanted to pick a fight with everything we stand against. So vanity metrics like traffic and rankings, when really want to focus on what drives pipeline as quick as possible, because that's what the exec team care about. So that's where we should be aligned. So that was, after years of my own pain, kind of helped me build out our messaging, which, like you say, is the backbone. Because if someone's coming to your website or any of your assets and it's not immediately resonating with kind of how you help, why they should consider you over a competitor, then you're going to fall short, especially if you're investing into marketing, into ads, into events, and sending a lot of people to those assets like your website.
Oh no, that's incredible. And I think, just in the last 2-3 minutes, you gave a marketing 101. There's like, all the questions related to positioning, all the questions related to messaging, everything that you got to nail down, being able to replicate what your targets are saying as good messaging. It's all there. So I think already that's an amazing start.
Real quick, are you tired of seeing competitors above you in Google's organic search results and AI search every time dream clients are searching for your solution, your software, comparing vendors, or looking for problems that you solve? Meaning those competitors are stealing traffic, mindshare, pipeline, and revenue just because they invested in an SEO program. We fix that at Breaking B2B with an unusual approach to SEO and content marketing for B2B and SaaS companies. Why not book a call to see if we can start driving pipeline and revenues as quick as 90 days with our different approach? Head over to breakingb2b.com to grab a call. I look forward to chatting to you soon. Back to the episode.
So am I right in thinking that you kicked off your kind of service offering, and as you're going through that, and primarily through sales calls, you kind of were just always reflecting on what you're hearing and where people are kind of, how did you really gauge, like, practically, how did you gauge that, okay, no, actually these B2B SaaS marketers are a better customer for me? Was it like in your CRM, they had longer kind of, they were churning less? What was the trigger to that? Yeah.
I wish it was that detailed. And for companies that are a lot smarter, wiser, and have better resource than me, yes, go to your CRM and look for data like historically, what companies have we sold well to, what verticals are they in, what firmographics, industries, all that kind of stuff. So then you can, like you say, you can evaluate what type of companies, what size, who was the point of contact, how long did they stay with us, did they churn at a certain point, etc. Then you can kind of really double down on that dream client profile. I didn't have any of that. Like I'm terrible. I run most of my stuff out of Google Drive and Google Sheets and Google Docs. But we're still a small bootstrap growing company, right? So we're a small crack team, and this company, Breaking B2B, is only, as we speak, kind of around 13 months old. So in my case, most of the data I was getting was either from folks like B2B marketing leaders I was interviewing on my podcast, Breaking B2B, or I was running a ton of, I still am. I run a lot of sales calls each and every week, discovery calls with folks that either find us for our own SEO, through the podcast, through my LinkedIn content, recommendations, my email list, etc.
Yeah.
And I'll always dig in. Like, I think great marketers should generally be super curious. Like, curiosity is a great trait of a salesperson, of a marketer, of a founder. So when I run those discovery calls, and this doesn't just have to translate to an SEO offer, this can translate to any offer, is really understanding like things like what's made you want to kind of book the call now, digging into kind of why are we having this conversation? Like, what are the kind of pain points that you're having right now? What's the impact of those pain points, etc.? What's made you want to look at this now of all times? If they've got an incumbent software or incumbent provider, like, wouldn't it be easier to just stay with them? Like, why are you having this call with me? Why do you want to speak to another founder or sales rep? Like, why do you want to waste 30 minutes? Like, really diving into that stuff, pulling those insights, and then looking for threads, looking for common patterns in the responses. And that was all it was, really. There was no real artwork to it. I was just hearing, because I was having these sales conversations every week, I was looking for common themes, and in my case, it was like agencies promising the earth and just delivering a bit of traffic opposed to pipeline, and overworked marketing teams and lacking resource to make it happen. So I was just putting those common themes into our messaging, and it was just nothing more detailed than that.
That's super interesting. Like, how many calls do you reckon it was just to get a feel of that? Like, before you were kind of like, okay, this is the theme appearing. Yeah. How many calls was it?
Oh, loads. I mean, to give you some context, like, nothing in B2B marketing happens all that quick, right? Especially if you're selling high ticket solutions. And to give you an idea, I've been running my podcast Breaking B2B for over 5 years. And for the first 2 or 3 years, I was clueless. I was just interviewing anyone and everyone. It was only the last couple of years that I fine-tuned it to like B2B and SaaS marketing, because I realized all those issues that I had before, like trying to sell to folks that don't believe in the value of, in our case, SEO.
Nice.
So I think it was just learning through the pain, and then stumbling upon B2B and SaaS marketing, probably after listening to other podcasts and interviewing folks on my show, and just kind of really learning the hard way. And then I think eventually, what probably was the tipping point is that someone followed my content on LinkedIn, and they were an Israeli funded tech company, and I dealt with them, and they were just really wanted to make SEO happen. They had a good budget, they understood the value, and I think for me that was the tipping point. I was like, this is so much better dealing with a marketer at this type of company that understands the value already and wants to make it happen. I was like, I should sell to more of these kind of people. And then it kind of went from there, really.
So like, when you figured that out, how did you double down? Was it like, let's write more on LinkedIn? Was it, let's create a website and drive the SEO traffic to it? Like, what was the doubling down looking? What did that look like?
Oh, it was a lot of angles. That's a good question. So it was various things. So for example, with the Breaking B2B website, it was let's make our messaging resonate with this dream client profile. So let's clearly say on our homepage straight away, in our case, B2B SaaS SEO for revenue, not vanity. Even with the name Breaking B2B, I kind of split tested that. I bought a load of different domains, and I actually asked some of my peers, like I pinged them on LinkedIn message and just said, what do you think of these name choices, and even ran a poll on LinkedIn, because I didn't want to just guess the domain name. I wanted to actually make sure it hit home with B2B marketers. And everyone was like, go for I gave a few choices, and they said, go for Breaking B2B. And to be honest, I was surprised that was available when I registered it like 14 months ago. So a lot of stuff I was getting real advice from B2B marketers that I trusted, because I didn't want to go in blind. Like, I wanted to get as much feedback as possible. And then that kind of feedback loop went through to website messaging, build, key pages, to my LinkedIn content. So pretty much all I really post about is advice for B2B SaaS marketers and such around SEO and content marketing and building in public with this company and that kind of stuff. And likewise on the podcast, Breaking B2B, like episodes, interviews with those kind of marketers, the solo episodes I do on SEO and websites are all fine-tuned to that audience. So making everything as useful, as entertaining and valuable to that specific audience directly. So when they have the problem that we solve, we're top of mind.
That makes a lot of sense. Just to say, how do you go from that top level strategy to the kind of the content strategy, like the actual like titles and pieces of content? Like, is there something formal that's happening between those 2 points?
Okay. Are you talking about our own, like in terms of what we publish on LinkedIn, or are you talking about from a wider strategy in terms of SEO, or just so I can give you the best?
Yes, good point. Let's start with LinkedIn and then move into like SEO on your website. Yeah.
Yeah. And I won't be able to answer this as well, because I know in the next few weeks you're having George Kudenaris, so he's going to be great to have on this specific topic, because he can dive into the 5 stages of awareness, from like be heard, be ready, be seen, all that kind of good stuff. He's super good on that. Whereas my LinkedIn strategy is probably not as tight as George's by any means. My LinkedIn strategy is usually, let's do a mix of posts from informational, like top of funnel, to kind of mid funnel, like free assets and that kind of stuff, and then bottom of funnel, like client testimonials, review videos, quotes, and that kind of stuff. So usually it's like, it is fine tuned to my ICP, so it's something that a B2B marketer should find helpful, funny, or entertaining.
Brilliant.
But I'm a big fan of standing out, because there's a lot of SEOs that they publish great stuff, but it's very technical, and it's almost like it was SEO content to serve other SEOs. And I'm like, well, that's not, rather selfishly, that's not going to grow my business. That's just going to make other SEOs clap, which is not what I want. I want other marketers to buy my shit. So how do I do that? Well, I try and post stuff that's different. So that could be an experiment that I've run, like ranking in 90 days. That could be me on the street asking people, how do you get to the top of Google, which we've done man on the street videos, just to break out. That could be me making a meme that's something stupid around SEO. So it's a mix of kind of helpful stuff, but also stuff that's a bit different, is kind of how I approach LinkedIn.
That's actually really, I mean, like, I want to explore that a bit more. So creativity, standing out, being different in B2B is like a holy grail topic. How do you do that, and how do you do it well? I wonder if it is, for you, was this also just kind of experimentation? You weren't thinking about it too much, just giving things a go, seeing what's done, or was there something more kind of like, to stand out, I need to have my own personal brand. My personal brand is going to be based on me, Sam Dunning. You reflect on who you are, and you try to put that out. Then it's kind of more structured like that. Like, how did it work? Standing out,
So I'll frame this first, although I guess I'm in a fortunate space as the fact that I'm a founder of a company. I can pretty much do what I want on social media. So a lot of marketers probably aren't in the same space where they need to get approvals and all that kind of stuff. Now, I've been on LinkedIn a long time, right? And it's getting harder and harder to get organic reach. So I think it's more and more important to, especially with the rise of AI, and anyone can churn out like any type of content. Flick of a switch, but so kind of having your own point of view is really important, and also doing stuff that's different to whatever, or trying to be different. So when it comes to experiments, I'm a big fan of experimentation in general, like going in with a bit of a hypothesis and thinking like, this might resonate with my ideal clients. I think this is a bit different, and I think this could have a good impact on whatever we're trying to do, whether that's more visits to our website, more leads, whatever. So like one of my I've done a lot of stuff, like so much has flopped, so much has failed, but one of the ideas that I had that's probably worked the best is my Ask the Public series, and that we started just over a year ago. And I got that idea when, I think one night after playing football, I was just eating dinner and looking at my phone and stumbled upon YouTube short of I think it's called The School of Hard Knocks, where this guy just interviews like entrepreneurs on the street. And really good little mini series. And I thought that could be fun in B2B. So I was literally a week later, I got my friend Ben, he's a videographer, and just said, we need to do this. I've got this idea. Paid him some cash, and we just went out and videoed it. I bought a Rode mic. He just filmed it on his phone, and I was asking people on the street like, how do you get to the top of Google? What is SEO? What do you think about cold calling, and all that kind of stuff, just to get funny reactions. And we do those series now because it's quite successful. We do them maybe every couple months. We'll do it in a new location, but that's one of the best because that still gets brought up on sales calls. Like people say, like, I really enjoyed your Ask the Public series, and it's not directly tied to SEO, but it makes our brand more memorable. So then more people might follow us or check out our newsletter or check out the podcast.
That's so fascinating because first of all, I think experimentation. I need to also kind of build that into my kind of approach to LinkedIn a bit more. I think I'm too slow to just try lots of different things and slightly nervous still. I'm new to LinkedIn, so I still feel like kind of still a bit of a nervousness to kind of look stupid in the professional kind of context. But I think, you know, without that fading fast mindset, you won't find that thing that works. And it's interesting that you also did these on the street interviews, because as you say, they don't relate directly to SaaS marketers in the sense that you're talking about SEO to them, but it would resonate with them because they're looking for innovative ways to do content. They're seeing you do that, and you are talking about your service and your offering, SEO. So it's kind of interesting that would act as like kind of like your brand piece, and it worked because it comes up in sales calls. I had a YouTube channel once, and it was really funny because I was working with coffee, and I would record my journeys to farms. And then I was at a few weddings, and people that I never met in my life would come up to me and say, "Hey, you seem really like a friendly guy. You doing all these crazy adventures," like, as if they knew me, but I didn't have a clue who they were. So it works in the subtlest of ways.
That's awesome. That's exactly it. I think it's so just having those little ways to be remembered that they've got to slightly link back to your product, sure. Otherwise it's almost pointless. But having something that will just differentiate you from the thousands of other companies doing a similar software or service or solution to you is just helps build up that mind share a bit more and that familiarity.
And I think that approach, like kind of looking at things that are happening in off LinkedIn, right? So you could, even TV is pretty interesting. Netflix, how they creating certain kind of 10-minute documentaries, just other forms of media, and then bringing it back into B2B is kind of an interesting way of doing it, and just like kind of taking notes of, I just saw this format on Twitter or TikTok, whatever it is, X. And kind of bring it in. It's kind of I think that's pretty interesting way to do things. So then in terms of SEO, how do you do the same, right? So you got your target, you got your messaging, you brought it out there, it seems to be working, and now you've got to build it into a website such that it functions in a certain way, right? That it's searchable, that people find the right search term in the right stage of the funnel. This is a lot more technical. So how do you translate those two? How do you translate your high level strategy into your SEO strategy? And maybe here you can also broaden it out to talk about other startups in general, if you like.
Yeah. So it's always tricky when it comes to SEO and then getting that tied in with the rest of the messaging strategy. I think that's where a lot of companies fall short, and they kind of go too hard one way on the SEO, and they go too hard on, oh no, we can't do anything to our website, like doing an SEO campaign is going to completely ruin like our design or our messaging and that kind of stuff, and it doesn't have to if it's done strategically, and it's well thought out. So probably, as you gathered, like our approach is, if we're doing an SEO program for a B2B company, like how can we drive time to value? How can we drive revenue as quick as humanly possible? And we don't necessarily care about driving tons and tons of traffic. That'll probably be a byproduct of what we do. The traffic will go up. But instead, we care about how can we drive dream clients that have sales intent, looking on Google or AI search now as well, that are actively in market, are in that, as we know, the 95-5 rule, or in that 5% that are actively searching or evaluating solutions in our space. How can we capture that demand? Because that's when SEO is best, to drive leads, pipeline, demos, sign-ups, whatever our end goal is. So that's it in its simplest form. And like you said, that's something we did at Breaking B2B when we started. I knew that I wanted to kind of drive inbounds from organic search as quick as humanly possible. So in our case, we went after terms like B2B SaaS SEO, B2B SEO, and did a big content strategy and aggressively published content and built links with partners and all that kind of stuff that we can go into. But for most companies, I guess where they go wrong is a few different areas. One is like I alluded to earlier, that perhaps the marketing team is stretched thin, and then kind of maybe the revenue leader or the marketing leader kind of approaches the marketing exec and kind of says, look, we need to do some SEO. I keep seeing all these brands ahead of us in the search results, and the problem is this marketer's probably got 100 jobs to do for that week, and adding SEO to their plate is another thing to stretch them even thinner. So they'll say, okay, I'll do some SEO. Because they're so short on time, what that probably looks like is, let's find a high traffic keyword on SEMrush or Ahrefs. That's related to our product. Let's then pump out an article through ChatGPT, make a few tweaks and chuck it on our blog, and then get back to the other 98 tasks for the week. And the problem is that the revenue leader might come back to them a few months later and say, like, how did the SEO do? And they'll be like, yeah, great, I published this article on this. And they'll be like, great, how many leads did it bring in? And they'll say, well, none. You just said do SEO. And that's where the problem lies. Like, they've gone after a high traffic term. It might even rank, but it's probably not going to drive any pipeline, because it's probably like a top funnel keyword, an informational based keyword, like how to do X or best ways to do Y or what is Y or that kind of stuff, real top funnel, which is also a lot of that's being wiped out by AI overviews now, like the instant results on Google before you have to click through into the results pages. So lack of a clear strategy is one of the biggest issues we see. And there are simple ways, like we've got frameworks that I can share on how you can map out your quote unquote money keywords and like kind of really drill down into pipeline driving terms. There's simple ways to do that. And that's where a lot of companies need to start their strategy.
I've heard about this kind of. I used to work with SEO as well, and this old way of doing the whole funnel. So you go from top of funnel, where you've got the most kind of like broad key search terms. How do you do this? How do you do that? And you got the middle of the funnel, which is more comparative, and then you've got the bottom of the funnel stuff. And because of AI and even paid ads and certain things like that, everything's shifting towards bottom of the funnel style. Kind of using SEO to do bottom of the funnel style stuff. That's where it's effective. So with that, like, do you also, just out of curiosity, like, how do you imagine the whole funnel now? Do you imagine like top of the funnel exists on socials, and then there's also a connection between that and your website, which is more bottom of the funnel, in terms of the article and stuff that are written there?
It's a very broad question.
Oh, sorry.
It doesn't matter. No need to apologize. Okay. I mean, how do I think of it? I think I guess realistically speaking, there's no funnel, because the B2B journey is, this is from my opinion, so I'm willing to be challenged, but I think the B2B buying journey is so messed up. And to give you an example of that in action, like on our book a call page on Breaking B2B, we've got the how did you first hear about us field that's free text in our booking form, and someone might put LinkedIn or podcast or something like that. And then when we have the discovery call or the sales call, I would always ask like what was your full route to finding us today? Like, how did you stumble upon us? And they might say something completely different. Like, oh, what actually happened is I was Googling like best SaaS SEO agency. I saw you were listed there. Then I checked out your podcast. Then I followed you for like 6 months on LinkedIn. Then I downloaded your SEO playbook. Then I forgot about it. Then one of our execs mentioned it and they saw you on LinkedIn. Then I talked about it on Slack. Then we realized that we needed to pick up on SEO because our ad spend was too high. Oh, now I booked a call. And it's like, that just shows you like the journey is not linear at all. It's completely messed up. And to answer your question, like, in short, you want to be on all the channels that your prospects are using as trusted source of information, but usually you want to start with like the highest intent, right? And that might be using SEO to capture bottom of funnel prospects and market, looking for offer now or comparing options. That might be Google Ads. That might be doing LinkedIn content that appeals to your ICP. That might be hitting events if your prospects are actually going to those events and they're worthwhile. I mean, most of the time I deal with a lot of kind of Series A, Series B teams, and a lot of those marketing teams are stretched thin. So it's usually about where can we have the biggest impact the quickest, and dedicating time to where those dream clients are hanging out.
Exactly. I think one of the words that you mentioned there was intent. Like this kind of content that we're building, doesn't matter on which platform, has to connect to what would amount to like a hand raised, or where they're showing the highest intent. So how do you personally think about intent? Like, what to you is a signal of intent on these platforms? And you could talk about the kinds of content that, if it's consumed, signals intent for you, or the kind of keyword that, if it's searched for, signals intent to you. It's broad again, but I'm just curious where you take it.
Yeah. So I mean, I know there's a lot of, certainly over the last year, there's been a lot around intent data and things like that. So like folks that maybe been on various websites and have showed some kind of interest, and then that gets sold as data that your SDR or sales team can phone up and or email nurture, etc. That's not really my skill set. Now, my skill set is more simple. Like, what does an ICP, what does a focus client actually search for, and from an SEO perspective when they need the offer?
Right.
So, like you said, it's bottom funnel stuff, so it's not informational based. But I do think there's a case for top funnel SEO if it follows a certain framework. It's more, they're probably going to type into Google things like, in the proposal software space, like best proposal software tools, or best tools for building proposals, or best proposal software platforms, or that kind of stuff. That's probably going to be a high intent term. Or they're comparing options, so they may be evaluating 3-4 different softwares, so they're looking for stuff like Proposify alternatives, or Quilla alternatives, or Quilla versus Proposify, like those real high intent terms where they're making that shortlist and comparing the options. Those are usually the ones to start when it comes to kind of capturing demand on Google and SEO.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Okay. And like, to what, I don't know if this is like a good time to kind of speak a little bit more about your money keyword framework. I know I'll point people to the actual resource linked in the description of this podcast, but I don't know if this is a good time to, like, if kind of riff on that a little bit and speak for how that works.
Yeah, we can go through that quickly. So I suppose one of the simplest ways, in my opinion at least, to map out how you can get the quickest return on pipeline from an SEO strategy is to fire up a simple Google sheet. And like I say, it's mapping out money keywords, high sales intent keywords. So you fire up a Google sheet and you split it into 4 columns. Column 1 is the main offers or solutions you actually want to sell. Column 2 is industries, like we talked about at the start of the conversation, that have that problem you solve, are motivated to solve it, and historically have bought well from you and have the cash to easily invest. Column 3 is main competitors that always come up on sales calls. And column 4 links back to top funnel, actually, which is more, what are my dream clients' jobs to be done? What are their struggling moments? What are they trying to do, maybe with an incumbent bodged together in-house solution that they're maybe getting frustrated with and searching for other ways to get the job done better? That's column 4. So column 1, if we go back to proposal software example, might be they'll call our solution proposal software, or proposal tools, or proposal platform, or that kind of stuff. Column 2, what are the main industries? That could be sales, HR, fintech, recruitment. You'd know that better than me. Column 3 would be competitors. So proposal software wise, that might be Proposify, Quilla, PandaDoc. There's a bunch of others. And then the 4th one, jobs to be done. What are those things that get raised on sales calls, like when a prospect tries to get the job done themselves, like how to build a sales quote in Google Sheets, or how to build a killer proposal in Google Docs, or how to craft sales proposals that convert, or how to increase my sales close rates, like those issues that get raised that your problem specifically solves. More top funnel, but those articles can be really useful for introducing your solution and talking about the pain points they might be facing and how you solve it. But this sheet with these 4 columns is all about building long tail keywords that your dream clients might search when they need your offer. So for proposal tools or proposal software, you might make keywords like best proposal software or best proposal tools. The issue is those are going to be really competitive and difficult to rank for, because there'll be a lot of competitors going for those and ranking well. So to start with, those might be ones that you chip away at long term, and to get a quicker win, you might go for industry, like offer plus industry, like proposal software for sales teams, or best proposal software for recruitment teams, or HR or fintech, or those niches, because they'll be a bit easier to rank because they're more specific, but they'll still drive high sales intent leads. And then using the competitor column, that would be what we talked about earlier. Like, we know that folks usually evaluate 3 or 4 vendors. So they might search for like Proposify versus PandaDoc, or Proposify pricing, or Proposify alternatives, and that's where you can have an article that says these are the top 10 alternatives to this solution. Maybe position yourself as number 1, but share your points of differentiation, why folks choose you, what you do the others don't, comparison tables, show your product in action, social proof, and all that good stuff. So this exercise is all about really exhausting that bottom of funnel and up to work out what are those dream clients searching for when they need the offer. You can run the long tail keywords through a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush, but don't be too worried about search volume, as usually the higher sales intent keywords have less traffic behind them, but are more likely to result in those leads or those demos. So that's kind of the first exercise you want to do, and then after that you can start working out what type of pages you need to build.
That's really interesting. You know, what I kind of picked up on a couple of things is that, again, it begins with the sales calls. And in those sales calls, you figure out what your specific customer's journey is. You know, where do they start? What's the trigger? What questions are they asking when it comes to jobs to be done? You know, and then your SEO maps onto this specific customer journey and the specific questions they're answering. So you're able to hit them when it matters, saying the things that matter, and that actually moves them to the next point as well, which is down to revenue. And then, of course, from that you can also figure out the very specific, high intent revenue terms that relate specifically to your product, your business, and so that's just really interesting. So happy to share that framework and link your website to it and everything on the bottom of this podcast. Now, I'm just curious as well. When you're trying to figure out those pain points, those jobs to be done, how do you pick up on what truly is something that is kind of something they want to solve now versus something that they're just talking about as you know, this could be better, but I'm not gonna.
So jobs to be done is a great framework. So I think it was Bob Moster and another guy that coined it. Now, you should probably, like, it depends how you consume information best, right? Like, I'm big on YouTube and also audio podcasts, like listening's how I consume. So I listen like when I'm driving and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So try and get to grips with some of those frameworks. But there's a really good book called Gap Selling by a chap called Keenan. Talks about the gap between where a prospect is now and where they want to get to, so their current state and their desired state. And that gap, if there's no gap, there's no sale. If there's no gap between where they want to get to and where they are and where they want to get to, there's no sale. So it's a lot around. My background is sales, so
interesting.
I'm quite a curious mind in the sense that I like to run sales. I like to run discovery calls, and then the marketer inside me would like to know the why, the hows, and all that kind of stuff to extract the information. So if you can get good at, it doesn't have to necessarily be sales calls. It could be you run a podcast where you interview your ICP, or you run a mini series, or whatever, or you just listen to those sales calls that you pull from your team. You have to have a way to extract that information, and then you can run it through a tool like ChatGPT or whatever to get the patterns. But finding the jobs to be done, I mean, I guess there's no real easy way unless you have a bank of sales calls already. But if you're a smaller team, you might have to literally extract them yourself. And most of it is diving into questions like, what's made you want to evaluate this now? How are you currently doing this? Like, I don't know if it was sales proposals that they've approached you for, like a tool. Like, how are you currently getting quotes out for your sales or for your offers, or how are your sales? Walk me through how your sales team currently sends out quotes or proposals. And they might say, well, actually they're spending an hour every time, like building it in Google Docs or Google Sheets, and it's like, and you might say, like, is that a good use of their time, do you think? And they'll say, actually no, they could be doing more cold calling or cold email or LinkedIn outreach if they had that time back. And you say, Right, okay. So do you think kind of it should be automated, or what do you think? And then get the prospect to give you the answer. Don't put words into your prospect mouth. Get them to literally say what the issue is. Ask probing questions, and they'll start spilling out the information. So it's almost like customer research, but in a sales call.
Yeah.
For them to bring up their problems. And if the problem's not impactful enough, there won't be a sale. Because if they think, oh yeah, it's in Google Docs, it's wasting like a few minutes a day, but we've actually got this really good template that converts really well and drives a lot of sales, and we're not that bothered, they don't care. Whereas if it does, if they are starting to get frustrated and they're saying like, yeah, we're building proposals in Google Docs, it's taking an hour of our sales teams every time, the sales team are starting to get pissed off, and you'd be like, why is that an issue? And they're actually taking time off, or they're not hitting quota, or they're skipping cold calling, whatever. And then you say, well, what impact is that having on your business? Well, actually, we missed Q1 targets because of it. Then you know you've got a money problem. So it's all that stuff, really. And all this has just come from me reading loads of sales books and doing loads of interviews and stuff that you pick up, and you have to go through trial and error. But yeah, gap selling is very good for that kind of stuff.
Damn, man. What I'm picking up here is just that you understand sales, customer research to the extent that you've done the important parts, and SEO. I think that's what's made this conversation and marketing and yes, it's made this conversation really interesting for me, because I've been able to like kind of bounce around these different places that I found like, you know, are interconnected, and you really opened my mind up to a few things, and also framed up a few things I'm going to be using myself, especially your kind of money keywords / customer's journey combined. Like that for me is a great framework, so I'm going to be using it, delving into it, and so yeah, I just want to say like thanks so much, man, for your time and answering all these questions. Yeah.
No worries. Good questions.
Hey, I'll let you know how the conversation with George goes too.
Yeah, sounds good. George is a good guy. It should be a good episode.
Nice one. All right, well, thanks, Sam. And yeah, 100%. Thank you so much.
Cheers for having me. And if you haven't yet, why not join thousands of B2B legends enjoying my weekday newsletter for unusual B2B marketing strategies, SEO tips, weird experiments I'm running, and fresh podcast updates. Head over to breakingb2b.com and hit that newsletter tab. And with that, I shall catch you on the next one. Cheers.